Hey everybody, just doing a little bit of a display of my Saga painting that I've done really the end of last year, beginning of this year. I think I finished up my last unit just last week. I believe it was last week. And I haven't really done just sort of a shot of everything that I've done. To be honest, I don't think this is an enormous amount, although Saga doesn't require as many miniatures as some games. But I was a little surprised as to how much I painted because I think I mentioned this earlier that the box that I had purchased, the box itself was a 4-point Saga starter band, so that's a small entry, but then there were some other pieces that were included. And it ended up being 6 points of Saga, which is really, in the past, typically a standard game of Saga, so really a fair number of miniatures. And I don't even have the banner bearer, but I'll get to that painted here yet. I'll get to next steps with this warband and what I'm working on and stuff after I talk about it. And so I ended up having 3 units of warriors, 3 units of Hearthguard, and 2 warlords as part of this group. And so I've got this group here. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sort of zoom in and just show the army a little bit. So for the warriors, for those of you that may remember, I elected to just paint one article of clothing with a kilt pattern or a tartan for just to show like a leader character or a character that you're moving around. So like in this case, it's this guy here has this little band over his chest that's painted like a tartan, and then this guy here would have the similar thing, this sort of band on the chest painted like a tartan, and then as well my Braveheart guy. I always think of Braveheart when I think of this guy, but same thing, band on the chest as a warrior. And so I have 3 units of 8, and then 2 there, and then 1 in the back here with the Braveheart guy there, that back row. Yeah, so that's 24 figures to make up 3 units of warriors. In front of them, I have a group that I could very well use as heroes if I'm not using 3 units of Hearthguard. I really think that these 2 characters here would make good heroes for the 2nd edition, but I also could throw them in and use them as Hearthguard if I needed an extra unit somehow. I've got my typical Scottish warlord on the right that came with the set, as well as Macbeth was included as part of my purchase for the person that was selling it to me. So I recently showed Macbeth there. He's a little bit more imposing than the standard warlord. I guess that makes sense. And then lastly, I have 2 more units of Hearthguard over here. So I do really like how the little big men shields look on these guys. I think it's been an improvement. And I do think in general that I've painted these guys a bit better than my Anglo-Danes. I think that it's just a matter of painting the other years ago and just continually painting since then and refining some things. And so I'm really pretty pleased with how these have come out. I think they pop nicely and kind of happy to throw these down, to be honest. And they have gotten some action already and did quite well against the Normans on a first test game, using the Book of Battles too. And so that was kind of nice. Now, really, these guys are ready to roll. I don't have to throw stuff in now to play them. I've been playing a lot of 4-point games anyway, and so I have units that I can switch in and out. Although there's not a ton of diversity. It's Hearthguard warriors and warlords. I have levies from my Anglo-Danes that I'm just using for now as slingers because they would probably look not too much different if I wanted to use levies. I think as far as where I'm going with this, I do have my Saga painting is going to include painting a civilian set in the future that I haven't painted yet. So just human civilians. So that'll be a priority. I have a little scenario pack that I'll be painting, and then I have both a priest for the Scots as well as a banner bearer that I didn't do as part of this. And so I'll be doing that in the future. As far as adding stuff to this army, I think there's a possibility I'll add some levies that have javelins, just because I can't even use those in my Anglo-Dane. So it's something different. And so Javelins in the game, I think when the second edition came out, people felt that they were kind of overpowered. I'm not really so sure that they're that overpowered anymore. They made an adjustment. I think they sit pretty well as something to use, but I don't think they're cheese per se. And so, yeah, I think that's what I'll be doing for Saga for the future. Although for my historical now, pretty shortly here, I'm going to be jumping back into French Indian War. I already have plans and a purchase I did earlier in the fall actually, that have been sitting and waiting. And so this year, or this at least next 6 months, for historical is going to be the period of musket and tomahawks in sharp practice. And so for those of you that are part of the channel for that reason, I have got terrain and all kinds of other things, projects that I'm doing. That windmill I'm going to be painting that I never did paint. Everything related to black powder is coming up. I do still have to paint the buildings that I did for Saga, so I may throw that in at one point in the year, as well, just to be able to utilize this building. I'll be doing, well, I don't know. I wouldn't say that I'm going to do them quickly. I did quite put a lot of time into that Viking house. I think I'll probably try to do a pretty nice job on it, but I don't know. I find terrain sometimes is pretty easy to paint, in the sense that your concentration and the precision of detail and the fine tuning of the process is just a little bit less, in my experience. And so that's enjoyable too, just to be able to have a bit of an easier time, because everything's a little bit bigger, to paint. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with the Saga. Really enjoying this and how it came out. Took a little longer than I would have expected, but happy with the final result. So hope you guys are all having a good weekend, and I will talk to you later.